Hello, everybody. It's Philly here from Chris and Philly Functional Medicine. I am on a mission to end body burnout in high achievers, especially our parents, mamas out there with energy, mood, and gut issues. Now, talking about mums, so I have this video. You're probably not going to get a lot of like gold gems in terms of like lab testing and SIBO and leaky gut and all that sort of stuff. This is actually, I want to share a story of something that happened to me about a month ago that is very, very personal and gave me so much insight around how the things that we believe about ourselves deep in our unconscious state literally are the machine that causes everything to happen, including body burnout. So this video is all about when I realized that I was still scared to mother. Now, if you've been following along, listening to other videos, reading blog posts, you probably would know by now that 2022 was my year for inner healing. So about 7-8 years ago, I did all my physical healing, got really down to business with lab testing and physical protocols and a ton of supplements and different diets. Well, 2022 was when I really did some really deep inner work. And anyway, at the end of December, I was feeling awesome. I was in flow. I was feeling like high energy, elevated state. My whole world was beautiful and filled with light and love. Now then something else happened. So it was on December the 20th. I developed what I call pain signals. So pain signals are actually health issues that will flare up, especially after you've done a lot of your kind of like physical healing. And some people might call it a relapse. Some people might call it just like an acute flare-up, whatever it is. Anyway, I have a few different health symptoms that will flare up when I've broken rapport with myself or somehow gone out of alignment with myself. My physical body will physically tell me through pain. And in December, on December 20th, I felt all three of my main signals turn on. I had anxiousness, chest tightness. My gut was really quite tense and just feeling very icky. And I had heartburn. Ugh. I hate it when it happens, but I also love it because it's a clear signal and a message coming from my unconscious state. Anyway, it really should have been, so I think this was a Tuesday. Kids were at school. Tuesdays are my days where I don't consult, but I do a lot of my content creation, and I'm currently working on a book. So it should have been, it really should have been like a chilled creative day where I got into flow and, really just like escaped into words and sharing my purpose. But what I found as the day progressed, I started, showing signs of old patterns of anxiously doing, overdoing, even to the point where I was writing a blog post and I'm like, I have to get this blog post finished before the kids come home. Otherwise, our business is going to break and go bust and we're going to be poor and I'm going to end up homeless. These are the weird sort of like stories that were spiraling in my head. And anyway, so as soon as I started like noticing these patterns, then the physical pains turned on. Tension in my gut. A few hours later, it escalated to my chest and I got tightness. And then a few hours later, heartburn, especially after dinner. It was like I was experiencing it so bad. It was actually probably the worst heartburn that I've had in a very long time, where I literally felt like I couldn't swallow food properly. It was almost like there was something stuck in my throat. And by the end of the night, I was in so much pain, physically and mentally. Mentally, because I'm like, how could I have been traveling along so amazingly, feeling like mentally, emotionally in line with myself, as well as like my physical body just feeling like amazing and strong and capable and flowy. And then it wasn't like there was anything big or stressful going on in my life. It was like bang, all three pain signals. So I've come to learn to really become in tune with my body and to understand that these physical pain messages are coming from my unconscious state. They're trying to grab my attention that something is out of whack. So anyway, that night I laid on my bed. I do this thing where I put my hand on my chest, another hand on my belly, and I just like talk to my body. And I said, body, unconscious state, whatever you are, whoever you are, all of it. I hear you, I feel you. Body, I know you're trying to tell me something and I'm all ears. I'm ready to listen. I know that there's something I need to address. So I'm here lying in this bed in the quiet, ready to listen. I feel safe. It's safe to listen. Tell me, why am I starting to feel these signs of body burnout again? Anyway, I laid still for about a good 5 minutes, breathing into myself, and a bunch of thoughts raced through my head. Some things like, oh, is it food? Did I just eat something again that triggered heartburn? No. Or is it like a histamine response? I don't know. Nope, neither of those felt right, although it was highly likely that the physiological end result, the health symptom, was caused that was caused by stress and tension in my nervous system, was literally releasing histamine, and that's probably why I had the heartburn. But that wasn't the root. I could just feel that wasn't the root of what was going on. It wasn't simply the food. It wasn't simply just having a histamine response. There was something deeper that had actually caused that physiological response to happen. And so I dug deeper. I went past the physical. Then I started thinking, am I not trusting myself again and my ability to run a business and be an awesome practitioner and thought leader? Nope, that didn't feel right. Have I disconnected from Chris and my husband again? No, that didn't feel right. Am I worried about Christmas and my very small? I really had not much left to do leading up to Christmas. Am I worried about Christmas and my to-do list? No, I felt like I was in complete control of that. So anyway, I wasn't really getting very far. And so I'm like, all right, whatever. Okay, let's change direction. Instead of talking to myself, listening to myself, I'm going to start reading this book that I'd been reading most nights called Elegantly Simple Solutions for Complex People Problems by the one and only Jamin Fraser, who has been an integral part in my own inner healing journey and really getting to the bottom of my body burnout. Anyway, before I get into what I read in the book, I'm a huge believer of synchronicity. That's like, synchronicity is basically when two things happen at the same time that isn't just a coincidence. It's kind of like this thing happens and then, I don't know, maybe you're thinking about a friend and then all of a sudden your phone beeps and it's a text message from the friend that you were just thinking about. That's what's called synchronicity experiences. And if you want to learn more about that, Mel Robbins, super famous podcaster, has a really cool episode on the science of synchronicity. There is actually science. There are people who do PhDs about this. Anyways, I had a synchronicity moment. It wasn't a coincidence that I picked up this book and landed on the exact page I needed to read at this moment in my life when I was asking my body and my unconscious state, what's up? In the book, I came across a case study of a woman who felt really sick on her wedding day, and she'd been sick for 20 years ever since. There was a big backstory of this lady. So she was in an abusive relationship. Well, actually, no, she got married really young, 19 years old, I think. And initially the marriage was lovely. And then something happened with the husband. Maybe he had a mental health issue that erupted and he got quite abusive. And then a couple of years later, after they had 3 children, small children together, he left her with no word. She doesn't know where he went. Anyway, so she's trying to deal with this marriage breakup, the husband that ran away, as well as becoming a single woman and a Christian at the same time. So, you know, divorce is kind of frowned upon in the Christian world. And probably feeling really crap about herself. And then anyway, she met a lovely man who joined, met a lovely man. They got engaged. And then on the wedding day, she mysteriously fell sick. The book didn't say what she had, but she probably had something like chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia and, you know, all those syndromes and conditions that doctors don't really know what to do with. And ever since then, so she fell gravely ill on her wedding day. And you got to remember that. I often say people work perfectly. They are not broken. So every health issue that you have is actually created by your system to keep you safe in some way. I know that might be a really big kind of like different way of thinking about health. A lot of people think, oh, it's just the food that you eat. Oh, it's just stress. Oh, it's the toxins in the environment. All of those add to your stress bucket. But your system, in the end, is the one that allows health issues to erupt. So this woman was staying safe by being sick, because, her second husband couldn't leave her. Or if he did, he'd be shamed like this awful man who has just left this single woman with her kids and she's super sick. And even if he did leave her, this time she was sick. She had no energy. If he left her, he was actually rejecting the sick her, not the well version of her, like what happened with her first marriage. Also, she had a lot of guilt and shame around mothering. So being a Christian woman, divorced at a young age and a single mother meant to her that there must be something wrong with her. So staying sick meant that she could outsource her parenting responsibilities to her poor new husband, which her new husband did really well. And as I read that part about her outsourcing her mothering responsibilities, it hit me. I was filled with a beautiful goosebumps synchronicity moment. Every cell in my body lit up. And I was filled with this release and this flood of emotion. So this story that I was reading in this book at that moment was trying to tell me something. And so hand on heart, hand on belly, I spoke to my body, to my unconscious state. Is this what you're trying to tell me, body? Is this what the heartburn is all about, and the chest tightness and the gut tension? That I'm still scared to mother? Is this something I haven't yet properly addressed or acknowledged? That thought really threw me because honestly, I thought that I was a way better mother than what I had been when I was really sick and out of control with anxiety and showing up as a dragon mum. But when I got really honest with myself, and when I asked the question, a flurry of memories and thoughts flooded in my mind. So looking back, even before Chris and I had kids, I remembered it as a young adult never feeling maternal or clucky around babies or kids. In fact, one part of me was like, I think there's something wrong with me, because I had my older sister was super amazing with babies and kids. And I'm like, there's something wrong with me. I can't quite gel with children. And then as I grew a bit older, I was actually really scared to have children. And if I'm being really honest, I didn't really want to have kids. I kind of just thought it was the next step after getting married, and Chris wanted kids. So I'm like, all right, well, yeah, let's try and have babies. And of course, sure enough, remember, people work perfectly. I developed infertility, PCOS, hormonal issues, and it made it really difficult to have children in the first place. That's not a coincidence. That was my system creating the result that my unconscious state actually desired. I was scared to have kids, so let's shut her hormonal system down so she can't actually make babies. Anyway, eventually I got pregnant because of hardcore pharmaceutical drugs. I didn't know anything about natural medicine back then when I first fell pregnant with our first baby, which ended up in a miscarriage. And it wasn't a coincidence that I fell gravely sick after not just my first baby, but also my second baby. I'd always thought, prior to doing a lot of inner work and awareness around who I am, the patterns that I have, how I actually got sick in the first place, I always thought that it was just physical depletion post-babies and physical trauma post-birth, which all played a part. But I really knew that deep down in every cell that this was a pattern, this sickness that kept popping up. Not once, but twice after having babies. This sickness was coming from my unconscious state. It was trying to keep me safe. Literally, by me being sick and developing anxiety and fatigue and low immunity and chronic back pain, to the point that I couldn't actually even pick up my baby without pain, it meant that I wouldn't have to show up as a good mum. So if I failed in my mothering, it was just the sick me failing and not the true me. And looking deeper at this pattern, I could clearly see that I had deflected parenting responsibilities to Chris as well. So when our kids were babies, he was the one that had gotten up to them crying in the night, even though he would then get up for work at 4 a.m. I mean, I wasn't working at the point when my babies were really little. First, Poppy anyway. When Elsie came along, I had a business. But he was working very long hours, and yet, I created this system and these health issues so that I didn't have to get up to the kids at night. He did. And he was also the one that would rock them to sleep, especially Poppy, our oldest daughter, who would power cry for a good hour or two before falling exhaustively to sleep. He was the one that emotionally gave love to the kids. He was the one that played that with them. And I was always like deflecting responsibilities onto him because at the time, he was more physically and emotionally capable than I was. And even after I healed physically with functional medicine and felt more resilient in my body, so that was about 7 years ago, I continued deflecting my mothering responsibilities. I can honestly say that I was much more calmer. I was patient. I was able to feel more love. I was overall a better mom. I wasn't, no longer the dragon mom, but I still sort of outsourced things like emotional conversations to Chris. I outsourced putting the kids to bed to Chris. I also got stuck in overwork and addictive doing patterns as a way to excuse myself from connecting with my children. If I got really honest with myself, that's what that pattern, that was the payoff of addictive doing. Didn't have to be a mum. And while I felt like I was a much better mom, I definitely wasn't the dragon mom when I was really sick and really depleted. I was subtly deflecting parenting to Chris or brushing off some parenting things off as, too hard, so I'll just ignore it. And even that day, so end of December in 2022, even to that day, I started showing again patterns of overworking, which were really subtle because when I get really honest with myself, I was being scared to mother again. At the heart of it, I was unconsciously fearing the impending school holidays that were about to come up, where the kids would be with me 24/7. And so I wouldn't have as much time to work on the business. So I created a behavioral pattern of, I need to work, don't stop. This has to be done, so I could hide behind work and excuse myself from connecting with the kids when they got home. Whew. You might think you're like, whoa, Philly's so crazy, and maybe I am, but I'm also so honest because I guarantee that you're also showing up with patterns, whether it's the same ones as me or other ones, where it's these dysfunctional patterns of behavior or thoughts or even your sickness that are actually protecting you from something that you're greatly afraid of. Something to think about. I love digging into the crux, the deepest root cause of people's health issues, because this is where it's all at. So anyway, I realized why my pain signals, the heartburn, the chest tightness, the gut pain, had flared up that day with such clarity in that moment. Over the past, as I mentioned in 2022, I'd done a lot of very deep healing work, and I'd really focused on improving my relationship with myself, my health, my wellness, my relationship with Chris, my relationship with my business and spirituality. But to tell you the truth, I kind of neglected really focusing on my role as a mother. I sort of all the other stuff was kind of more important, it felt, because I actually felt like my mothering was okay. But it was my unconscious state that was letting me know through physical pain that I had missed a very important area of my life that I needed to address. And so anyway, that night, I promised to myself that I would have a deep conversation with my daughters the following morning before they went to school. And I did. I had 2 separate conversations with Poppy and Elsie, and both of them were beautiful. They ended up in heartfelt tears and cuddles and the most beautiful emotional and physical release. The heartburn switched off, the signal, the anxious chest, the gut tension, all of it turned off, and I was free and flowing again. And later that day, I took my oldest daughter on a very overdue mummy-daughter date, and it was the most magical and connected experience I have had with her in a really long time. And the whole time, she just kept saying every 10 seconds, "This is the best. Thank you, mummy. I'm having such a lovely time. Oh, this is so nice, mummy. Thank you, mummy. Thank you, mummy." I'm like, oh, it was so overdue. Anyway, this is what the whole point of this story is. I'm human. I fear things. Sometimes they're irrational fears. In fact, most of the time they're irrational. And these fears that we have about ourselves literally cause our nervous systems to become dysregulated, which then affects our immune systems and our adrenal glands and our brain and our detox pathways and our gut, and then cause body burnout. So when we talk about ending body burnout, we're not just talking about physical healing, because that'll only get you so far and most often only short-term results. Ending body burnout is where you look at your whole self as body, mind, spirit, interacting with the environment, and it is the purest form of intuitive healing. And it's where you get long-lasting results, which is just what we're all after, isn't it? Really? So I'm so excited to bring you more of this type of healing in 2023. This is where my heart is at. This is where I believe the world can heal, and like literally we can overcome health issues. Full stop. So if you'd like to find out more about our unique body-mind functional medicine approach of healing from energy, mood, and gut issues, you are most welcome, my friend, to book in for a free discovery call. I'll pop the link below this video. See ya.